Let our hearts not be hardened to those living on the margins. There is a room at the table for everyone. This is where it all begins. This is how we gather in. There is room at the table for everyone. Too long we have wandered, burdened and undone, but there is room at the table for everyone. Let us sing the new word in. This is how it all begins. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come on, pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, there is room at the table for everyone. Here and now we can be the beloved community. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come on, pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come on, pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. Let our hearts not be hardened to the living on the margins. There is room at the table for everyone. This is how we gather in for everyone. Everyone.
Glory be and grace to thee. Good morning. Okay. That was our in-gathering song. Welcome to the live and in-person and live Zoom worship service of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside. Our opening hymn this morning is number 123, The Spirit of Life, from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn 123, Spirit of Life.
Of
You be seated. Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for our virtual attendees. I'm Nick Williams, a member of the worship committee, and I will be your worship associate today. Other members of the worship committee include Tinka Friend, reading the sermon, Alec Peck, our music coordinator, Adam Wedeking, who monitors our visual and online connections, and Kate Lewicki, who is in charge of our sound system. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices. We welcome you all this morning in this sacred place. We know you come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. We hope you will find acceptance, connection, challenge, and love here. We hope you will find ways to provide outreach to others in our congregation, in our local community, and in our world community. Thank you for joining us here today. Before we move into the service, there are a few announcements we would like to share. We'll mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all this information, and it is available on our website. First Sunday Luncheon is on hiatus until September. This concludes today's announcements. And now I invite you to sit back, take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. You're welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. The sermon you'll be hearing this morning was delivered by Reverend Melanie Morel Ensminger at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Cherry Hill on Sunday, August 28, 2005. The Reverend Melanie Morel Ensminger is a retired UU minister. She was ordained in 1993 and served at several churches in Louisiana, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Mississippi. She retired in 2015. She believes in intersectionality, is a music lover, and is a proud mother and grandmother. Crossing over and meeting halfway, part 4 of the summer sermon series, Building Bridges Across Diversity. To work our way through this ironic dilemma, during this month, we have examined some particular kinds of difference that tend to cause problems both large and small in UU congregations. Differences of theology and spirituality, differences of political stance, differences of life experience, which would include such things as gender, race, age, economic class, occupation, culture, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and military background, but would not be limited only to the differences listed. Our purpose has been to learn to build bridges across seeming canyons of diversity that tend to keep us divided, separate, and alienated. We have two lightings of sacred flames. The first is the occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. The second is the lighting of our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We walk upon the traditional territories of diverse and sovereign peoples, the original peoples of this land, who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot we occupy was first the sacred space of several groups of Indigenous peoples, including the Cahuilla, the Campeño, and the Serrano. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as stewards of this sacred and holy place. We are blessed with a space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Today's reading for the chalice lighting is Outwitted by Edwin Markham. He drew a circle that shut me out, heretic rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in. We have a tradition here at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time away. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand and speak in front of others, so I will now ask for a volunteer from someone who has been here a while to tell us your name and how you found out about our church. We ask you to speak close to the mic and speak into it directly and clearly so everyone can hear. However, be aware that you will be visible on our Zoom camera and in the recording of this service, which is posted online. Do we have a church member who would like to volunteer? Alec, come on down.
Good morning.
Close to the mic, speak clearly and directly.
Good morning, Nick. Thank you. My name is Alec, and I am originally from Illinois, where I was raised UU by my parents. And I first came here 3 years ago when I moved out for for school. And it's been really great to be a part of this community since then. Thank you.
That's how it's done. If you are new here, a visitor, or an old friend, please raise your hand to stand and come up to the mic in front of the pulpit. There's someone on, we'll get to that. Please.
My name is Valerie, and I'm a recent new resident of Fontana. And this is my first time at the Riverside UU, and I'm happy to be here. I've been a Unitarian for a lot of years and come from Massachusetts originally and then Colorado more recently. Thank you, and I'm glad to be here.
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning, everyone.
Close to the mic.
Close to the mic. Good morning. Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Rhonda Lee. I'm originally from definitely Southern California, born and raised in Los Angeles. After my family, we moved from Arkansas many years ago. I'm a Choctaw Indian, and was invited here. This is my first time ever, and by my beautiful friend, Laura. And I'm excited to be here, and I'm a talker, so I'm gonna get off the mic, but thank you. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan Ridley. I'm visiting my 104-year-old mother here in Riverside. I came to this church the first time when I was in high school, where my high school friend was performing on stage. Oh my gosh. And I just got back from Phoenix, where I participated in the National Fencing Championships.
Yay.
Yeah. And I was able to see the former world #1 fence. His name is Sergei Bida. He came from Russia, and now I don't think he can go back. But anyway, and then I kind of met his wife, Violetta. She was coaching one of the kids whose mother I was talking to. And then I got eliminated by the guy who won my age category, Daryl Taylor. And I got more touches on him than the guy who lost to him in the finals. So I'm going to count that as a success.
Hey.
I'm also a fellow Midwesterner from Minnesota originally.
Mhm.
Thank you. I did épée. There are 3 weapons in fencing: foil, épée, and saber. Épée favors the older fencer, and the whole body is target, the head, the toe, everything. Oh my gosh, watch out. Thank you.
Well, we look forward to hearing more about it during Joys and Concerns on the first Sunday of the month. Anyone else who would like to come up? Be brave, little buckaroo. Yes, thank you. Well, you're not so little.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm originally from the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and I moved down here about a year ago to complete higher education. And I came here once about 7 months ago, and then my car broke down immediately after. And 7 months later, now I have a car, so I can start driving places. Yeah.
Welcome back. Anyone else? Okay. Is there anyone online who would like to introduce themselves? For our new guests, please join us for socializing and coffee after the service. We'd love to chat with you out in the parish hall, where you can also find our visitors book. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know you were here, and leave your contact information if you would like to know more about upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. Our hymn now is number 121, We'll Build a Land, from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing number 121, We'll Build a Land. This portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. This can be accomplished several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is shown here, as well as the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we will have in church each Sunday. Amazon gift cards are also available. You get the full value, and the church also receives a percentage for free. Please see Bill or Robert Braun in the church office if you're interested in purchasing the gift cards. Bill will be out in the parish hall after the service. A bag will also be passed around to collect any food or hygiene items to distribute to those in need. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. And to those who give of their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. Will the ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? Our next hymn is number 402, From You I Receive, from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 402, From You I Receive.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live. From you I receive,
We bid you welcome. This is a responsive reading. I'll read the first line and you read the italicized if you so feel like it. We bid you welcome who come with weary spirit seeking rest. We bid you welcome who come with hope in your heart. We bid you welcome who are seekers of a new faith. We bid you welcome who are seekers of a new faith. we bid you welcome who enter this hall as a homecoming. Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Tinka Friend, reading a part 4 of the summer series, Building Bridges Across Diversity, Crossing Over and Meeting Halfway. The sermon you will be hearing this morning was taken from the worship web found on the website of the Unitarian Universalist Association. As stated earlier, this is the 4th and final segment in a series of 4 sermons presented under the theme Building Bridges Across Diversity. If you missed the others, you can go to our YouTube channel and get filled in on the first 3.
Thank you. And in these days of sensibility because of the pandemic, if anyone was concerned that we were drinking out of the same bottle, we're married. So we share. So welcome everybody. It's so nice to see a lot of new people or people we haven't seen for a while. That's very nice. Each Sunday, since starting this series, I did a very lengthy recap as people might have come in. I didn't this Sunday. So Nick's suggestion is a good one. If you like what you hear today, go online and see the rest of them. I think I do have a brief summary of the other parts of this series. So this morning is the last of this series on building bridges across diversity. I hope this series has given you food for thought, something to chew on. I wonder if I'm hungry this morning. My metaphors all reference food. If you're like me, you haven't eaten yet. If you have not been able to sit here, if you have not been able to be here or to listen online to all of the previous sermons in this series, I strongly urge you, as Nick said, to watch them on our YouTube channel. Before I deliver the sermon, which as you heard, I did not write, it was delivered by a minister back in 2005. But I want to tell you, I have a few words before I start that. How many of you here have heard all 3? That this is your 4th one and you've heard all of them? Okay, 4, 5, 6, 7, good. Well, I know that this series was good for me. I'm actually luckier than the rest of you. You only get 15 to 25 minutes with this topic. But as I prepare to create the service, I read the sermon multiple times to be sure that I understand what the writer is trying to convey, to be sure that I can deliver the message easily and smoothly, to see if it offers something meaningful to me personally, and to see if I can change my life for the better by using the message. When the answer is yes to all of those, I agree to be in the pulpit that Sunday, and it becomes my spiritual practice for that week. Meditating on it, praying on it, finding hymns and readings that are successful to uplift and enhance the message. Now, I know whether I have been successful in doing that for myself, but only you know whether I have been successful on your behalf. I hope I have. This month, there was much that I have rejoiced when looking at myself in connection to the diversities brought forth in this series.
And there was much that saddened me when looking at myself in connection to the diversities brought forth in this series. I hope you have had the opportunity to look deep inside yourselves as well. That is how we grow. So now I will start the sermon, Building Bridges Across Diversity. The title for this fourth and last one is Crossing Over and Meeting Halfway. It was a summer sermon series delivered by Reverend Melanie Morel Insminger for the Unitarian Universalist Church in Cherry Hill on Sunday, August the 28th, 2005. All this month, we have been looking deeply into the topic of diversity within Unitarian Universalism and in this church. While diversity is generally acknowledged among religious liberals as a good, some UU congregations have even put the goal of inclusiveness and diversity in their mission statements. There is no doubt that differences can be uncomfortable and can cause conflict. This is a conundrum that begs to be solved. To work our way through this ironic dilemma, during this month, we have examined some particular different kinds of differences that tend to cause problems, both large and small, in UU congregations. Differences of theology and spirituality, differences of political stance, differences of life experiences, which could include a wide variety of things such as gender, race, age, economic class, occupation, culture, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and military background, but would not be limited only to these differences listed. Our purpose has been to learn to build bridges across the seeming canyons of diversity that tend to keep us divided and separated and alienated. My feeling is that if we UUs can develop these new skills in the wider world and make alliances with people of different faiths and different backgrounds and different cultures and vastly increase our circle of influence, we can develop bridges here in our own congregation and then apply these new skills out in the wider world. Just think what a difference we could make. In a world torn apart by differences where diversity can be deadly, learning how to be welcoming and inclusive in an increasingly pluralistic global village might turn out to be a world-saving talent. In each sermon, we have talked about ways to cope with our feelings of discomfort around differences, developing ways of relating to each other that are more welcoming and more sensitive to the feelings and concerns of those around us. Sometimes the sermons might have sounded a little repetitious, since the warning signs are about the same for each difference that we've looked at. For example, for the past 3 Sundays, I have reminded us about avoiding generalizations about any group or category, since they are inevitably false and misleading. I have asked us all to be more aware when we are using insulting terms when we do disagree with others. And I've repeatedly asked us to remember that our personal situation is not the measure of the world. What is normal and right for us is not necessarily normal and right for others. Several of you have asked me this month about alternative methods of communication. One person cried out plaintively, "Tell me things to say." The first part of bridge building is really what not to say. And some examples are easy. Almost all of us realize that the question, "How old are you?" is rude and intrusive to anyone over 10. But few of us have gotten to the point where we know that we should not ask, "What do you do?" A question that can be painful and embarrassing for a person who was recently fired or who has been looking fruitlessly for months for a job. "Are you married?" can be insulting to a heterosexual single woman, but it is downright excruciating to a lesbian who has been partnered for decades but unable legally to wed. "How long have you been here?" is a good question to ask if you mean how long someone has been coming to the church. But it is a bad question if you mean that that person seems foreign and you want to know how long they have been in the United States. "Tell me how you came to think about that" is a good conversation opener. "How can any sensible, compassionate person believe that?" is a conversation killer. Second, know your own motives and be honest about your goals when engaging with another person. Ask yourself, what do I truly want from this interaction? What do I want from this relationship? And if you want friendship and increased understanding on both sides, act accordingly. Of course, if your desired end result is a burned bridge, then go ahead and act any way you want without regard for the other person's feelings. The third and very important plank in bridge building is remembering that we all need each other. Yet another thing I've said before in this series. As Unitarian Universalists, we come from a religious tradition that has always insisted that human knowledge is perforce partial, that, as St. Paul wrote, now we see as through a dark mirror. In acknowledging all humanity that we don't know everything, we open ourselves to needing the insights and perspectives of others who know things that we don't know and who have had experiences that we have not had. And yet it is so tempting to treat each other with disrespect on the grounds that we have differing points of view. In the September-October issue of Sojourner magazine, Brian McLaren writes, "I don't agree with the tone of the conservative author who offers advice on how to talk to a liberal, if you must, suggesting that it's an odious task that one must do while pinching their nose. Nor do I agree with any liberal mirror image who sees all conservatives as equally stinky conversation partners." The next plank in our bridge over diversity is to hold conversations with the solitary goal of understanding the other person, of knowing them more deeply and more truly. If our secret agenda in speaking with someone who is different is really to convince them how wrong they are and how right we are, then we are doomed to perpetual failure and disappointment. If every time I talked politics with my husband, Eric, I really expected him to have a sudden epiphany and become a liberal Democrat, why, we'd have to quit having political conversations altogether. The atheists in our congregations are not going to convince the theists that there is no God. The folks who are pacifists are not going to sway those who believe that war is sometimes regrettably necessary. Let's accept right now that we are not going to convert each other, not going to change each other's minds, and just start trying to understand and accept each other. The fifth plank of our span is seeking common ground. Instead of constantly butting heads on the things we disagree on, let us dig deeper and find our areas of agreement and accord. In almost every case, we share common values and common concerns. Every single human being treasures their close relationships. They want to feel safe, desire to be cared for, need stimulation of mind and body, appreciates beauty as they see it, and looks for spiritual satisfaction, however they define it. So let's talk about what we share and those things that we agree on more often. And let's seek to find the parts of another person's position that we can affirm instead of looking for the flaws to attack. A good way to look for those commonalities is to tell stories instead of debating. Once we know how a person came to be who they are and think the way that they do, we are much less likely to go on the attack. In a strong community committed to pluralism, the why and how of a person becomes much more important and vital than the what. We begin to phrase our questions differently, less accusingly. Tell me why that is so important to you. What experience did you have that led you to believe this? Speaking of stories, the final plank in our bridge across diversity is the stories we tell ourselves about other people and their motivations. When we are calm and relatively happy, we tell ourselves stories that explain the other person we're disagreeing with as good-hearted, intelligent, sensitive, and caring. Just at the moment, maybe rushed or stressed or in error. But when our own stress buttons get pushed, when we feel threatened or at risk, the stories we tell ourselves about what is happening goes in a completely different direction. Then the other person has bad intentions, lacks compassion, is stupid and unfeeling, even evil. When building bridges is our goal, we must be careful not to assume that we are the only ones who are good and smart and caring. This final sermon in the Building Bridges series is entitled Crossing Over and Meeting Halfway, because any bridge is useless unless people are willing to use it, to take those first hesitant steps to cross to the other side. I hope that we are committed to the idea of not only being bridge builders, but bridge crossers. A first-year study action issue voted on at the 2005 June General Assembly is entitled Moral Values for a Pluralistic Society. We would be hypocritical to the extreme to be concerned with how pluralism will work in the world if we are not also concerned with how well we deal with diversity internally. The Commission on Appraisal of the UUA issued a final challenge at the close of its 2005 report, distributed at General Assembly in Fort Worth. Let it serve as a coda to this sermon series. These questions. What could our UU faith be like if our congregations truly became the safe and welcoming place that we aspire to create? If we truly did honor and celebrate both our diversity and our sources of unity? If we were willing to commit to a spiritual discipline as deeply as we commit to spiritual freedom. What indeed? Amen, Ashe, Shalom, Salam, Namaste, and blessed be. Thus ends the final sermon in this series on building bridges across diversity. But I would like to add some comments around the message we heard this morning. So this is me, Tinka, sharing a little bit about myself. I had been a member of UUCR, which is this church, for almost a decade when these findings were released in 2005. And I can tell you that I myself related to what was discovered in this series. As a new UU member back then, I excitedly embraced the principles and I shared them with everyone I could. This was a religion that embraced everyone, that you didn't have to keep part of you hidden from, that we didn't have to all think alike. Then I discovered that for many people in UU churches, that was true, as long as you did not identify with anything Christian, conservative, or military, or Republican. I came to discover that there were members at this very church who identified with each of those groups. They just kept quiet and were uncomfortable when comments were made which clearly made those positions known that that was not valued here. I would like to think that 20 years later, we have grown and matured spiritually so that that is no longer experienced. But I must confess that I would not hold my breath, especially after the debilitating effects in our country that was been created by Donald Trump. After about 3 years of constant negativity and quick judgments, I saw myself losing my own objectivity and found myself jumping into what is called in 12-step circles, contempt prior to investigation. My brush became large and I painted groups broadly before getting to know them as individuals. But I know that I have completed this series with a better understanding of myself and a resolve to become a more accepting, calm, patient, loving person when facing a person of the other persuasion, in whatever form that may be. And that is my prayer for everyone who walks through our door. Amen.
Our closing hymn is number 407. We're going to sit at the welcome table from the gray hymnal. Video will be projected up front. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 407. We're going to sit at the welcome table.
We're gonna sit at the welcome table. We're gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. Hallelujah. We're gonna sit at the welcome sit at the welcome table one of these days.
And the closing words comes from the Circle of Love, and it comes from the UU Church of the Larger Fellowship, which some of you, if you do not know, it's part of the UUA that is created and available for people who may be stationed in the military far away from a UU church, maybe shut-ins, older people that can't get to church, maybe on a ship. You know, if you don't have a UU church close to you, check out the UU Church of the Larger Fellowship. The poet, Edwin Markham, who was born in 1852 and became the poet laureate of Oregon from 1923 to 1931, was invited to read his poem, Lincoln, Man of the People, at the dedication of the Lincoln Memorial in 1922. But most of us, UUs, often remember him for a tiny little poem, which we use for our chalice lighting this morning, that expresses his universalist beliefs in love, a love that is big enough to include everyone and offers a radical understanding of belonging. The poem, as we saw, was called Outwitted, and it said, "He drew a circle that shut me out, heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in." Think about what that poem says. He wanted to shut me out and say that I didn't belong. He said that my beliefs made me someone who had to be pushed away. But because I live from a place of love, I did something very clever and sneaky. I found a way to include and welcome him, even when he was not willing to include or welcome me. That is universalism. Love big enough to offer belonging to every human soul. Not because everyone is like us or even necessarily likable, but because love is big enough to include everyone. So let this church, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, and us demonstrate that love and genuinely welcome all who step through our doors, regardless of what they believe or how they worship or what they look like or how they vote or what their life experiences have been, who they love, or how they talk. All are God's children, and all are welcome here. Namaste, amen, and blessed be.
Thank you, Tinka, for sharing your valuable time and insights with us this morning. It's sincerely appreciated. We look forward to seeing you again. For those of you who would like to stay in the sanctuary for 10 to 15 minutes to share some discussion or observations from the service, please remain in the sanctuary or online. Please be aware that these comments will be posted online. For the rest of you, you're now welcome to adjourn into the parish hall. Would anyone like to come up and share their thoughts?
Sometimes in being a universalist, you look for that qualifying line that how can we bring this all to one final peak? Being an old timer here and speaking to somebody else who not going to call anybody an old timer other than me, but here's a name for you as far as building bridges go. James Brownsville.
Mhm.
He was special forces when he was active. So there are certain things about how he went about the day's work. He taught taught math, not so much math, but I think it was a bit of algebra to engineering students at one point along the line, and he was pagan. So when you have a bridge like that, and also there are times when, as a person who's in a really tough military setting, there's an old saying that says, God does not exist on the parade ground. It's science, and what are we doing here? So this whole challenge of reaching someone and saying, when do I build a bridge to this person? When do I shut up with religious stuff and do the science thing? When do I do the excuse me, I've been around the world, seen a few thousand things, and I'm not going to have a God who only welcomes a small fragment along the way. That the very act of building bridges, I don't think you could do a heck of a lot better than trying to reach James Brownsville along the way. And if there's moments where for all the searching around flailing and because as universalists, we're always going to add more examples than we have speaking time to play it out, right? And to sit there and say, if I can reach a guy like this, or if I can take the lessons that this guy has and maybe carry him into my heart, and then how to reach other people with that, all of it in a sort of an earthy fashion. Really, I should go home and put the covers back over my head because I won't do anything better for the rest of the day.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Anyone else want to come and share some thoughts, something that stirred you or something you disagreed with or anything? And please be sure to
Oh, you lose.
you're
Come on,
closer,
come on.
you're closer.
Come on.
And please remember to say your name into the mic.
Close to the mic and directly.
Close to the mic.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Alan Ridley. I was going to try to sing a song that I used in a choir. It starts with "Look at the world," and it goes on, but I can't remember the words. So, but we also sang a song, "Everything's going to be all right," which was really encouraging. Everything's going to be all right. And there's anyway, I am here because the last person at the pulpit, what's her name? The person who usually. No, the other person who's usually here. There's a Grace. Yeah, Grace asked me if I would. Sometimes I come up here and I talk about the single tax or the least bad tax, and she says maybe you can do a sermon on that sometime.
Oh,
And I said sure. But I have 3 versions. One is about our Foundation for Economic Justice. One is one on addressing homeless issues. And I did that someone at another church asked me to prepare that. So I'm wondering which one you would like me to offer.
well, we're going to be having a worship committee meeting after church today, so maybe that's something we could discuss.
That's it. That's a great opportunity. Yeah. And just let me share with you one thing. Our organizations, we have a national and international group of people behind this idea. And we're going to the national conference on state legislatures. It's in Indianapolis this year. And I was researching some of the other organizations and their websites, and one of them is trylvt.org. LVT stands for Land Value Taxation. And in there, it has 2 statements that are really powerful. One is smart tax policy, and the next one is wise taxation creates jobs and prosperity. So I thought that's pretty good. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, Walt.
I have found that it's wise not to argue with people unless you just want to be accused of, as somebody comes by and they say, never argue with a fool because someone passing by might not know which one it is. I think that tends to be the truth when you start arguing with someone. So what I've learned for quite some time now, actually, and it works very well, is you listen to the other person's arguments. And if they have lots of statistics and they bowl you over to where you feel defensive and smashed and you want to whine or howl or bite, instead realize it's not about you arguing with them, but rather your fact finding. So merely listen closely, gather what they have said and say, thank you. I have not heard that before. Thank you so much for sharing. They will immediately challenge you. Well, then you think like I do, don't you? I won. Again, you say, you know what? I'm going to go home and think about what you have told me. I'm here to fact find. Yeah, but what do you think? It's not important what I think. It's what you've told me. Thank you very much. You avoid the confrontation so that you feel more like being open to new ideas, even if it's overwhelming, and you actually learn something. The other thing I'd like to say is if you're wondering about the movie Oppenheimer, it was about physics and, you know, very thick math, etc. It's actually about the McCarthy era. I urge you to see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Walt. Alec, did you want to? Is there anyone else? Before Bill, is there anyone online that has a comment to make or sharing? Okay, Bill.
As an add-on, I guess, to what Walt was saying, was the idea of when you're having a disagreement with someone, there were times when I was a younger pagan where I wanted to win the argument. And I was actually rather good at that sort of thing. I was one of those little guys in the red jacket with the Forensic Society a long, long time ago. And there's a different way to argue on that. But the two things are, first of all, you have a spiritual position that give or take allows you to move through the day in a loving, compassionate, fairly wise fashion. And I come up and I'm more interested in cloning another one of me. And in the act of doing so, I damage you. I have taken the net cost of a functioning person and subtracted it temporarily from the stream of the world. And thus I have not done the universe. I've done the universe some harm by doing so. I thought that I'd be doing better because I'm cloning another one of me. How could this not be an advantage? Wrong. It's often a better thing to just make sure that, as like they say, at first, do no harm. You know, the old Hippocratic oath thing. And this second thing, unless it runs out of that wasteland of mine called my head, is you don't, I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Are there any other further comments? Okay, I am just going to say that there is I guess you would call it an interfaith experience that is here in our community in Riverside. Adam and I often attend, it's once a month, it's a Tissé service, which is a style of coming together. I would call it a worship service, but you don't have to call it that because it's not, depending on your definition of worship. But it is a time where many people from many different faiths here in Riverside come together. It's quiet, it's meditative, There's often a candle lighting ritual in it that's very quiet. There's songs, readings, chants, and it's just I know for me, it's like a spiritual cleansing. I just sort of go in there and come out feeling so much, well, spiritually cleansed and rejuvenated. So I just want to say that, you know, don't hesitate to go out and experience, you know, regardless of whether the creed or the belief is something that you feel you can embrace, that there are experiences that you can share with other people regardless of what the beliefs are. So I want to thank everyone being here. I want to thank you for listening. I hope you did get something out of both today and the whole series. And thank those of you who came up to share something. I want to thank you for that. And so now please join us in the parish hall for further fellowship.
Thank you.